Hey everyone, welcome to the Thoughtful Software Podcast. My name is Fahad, and joining me always is Andrew Wolf, CEO and founder of Skiplist, a software development company. In this podcast, we discuss how to build great software, particularly thoughtful software. Andrew and I both agree that there's just too much waste in the software industry. Actually, billions and billions of dollars a year are wasted on projects that are just unusable. And so we feel there is a better way, and this is thoughtful software. So, in this first episode, Andrew and I define what is thoughtful software and how it can help your business ship more successful software projects. We will share our thoughts and how we build software, and in future episodes, we'll have guests who will come on and talk about their insights into building great software and anything that's related to software, social and community issues, as well as blockchain and machine learning and software architecture. It's going to be great, it's going to be insightful, and we hope you enjoy. All right, Andrew, let's get this rolling. Tell us, what is thoughtful software?
Yeah, absolutely. Being an industry veteran of 15 years, I've seen it all. Projects that have been massive successes for their companies have turned into billion-dollar product lines, and I've seen projects that people poured 30 million into that have, completely gone bunk or not even been completed at all. And I see $30 million way more than $1 billion, and I don't, there's common themes among those projects, and the industry is broken. We've stopped caring about our customers. We start caring about profit more. We've stopped caring about the quality of our work. We rush to get done, get as much done as possible mindset. And I think we need to take a step back as an industry and really think craftsman, think how we can provide value and be very conscientious, very, very thoughtful, if you will, to our customers, and know that there's externalities to everything that we do. And when shipping a product, understanding those externalities and making sure we understand the cost of our choices, that can really, I believe, change a lot. And right now, people aren't doing that.
Well, the flip side is that the economy is doing well. Venture capital is everywhere. Startups in general are doing pretty good. Do you see anything wrong wrong with this?
Yeah, well, okay. Let's look at one sector, the venture capital software sector for startups, right? They say only 1 in 10 software startups will be successful, meaning they have an exit, and only 1 in 20 of those will actually have a profitable exit, meaning that the VCs and the founders make money. And that is a frightening statistic considering how many startups get funded every year, how many billions get poured into startups. Now, they don't only fail because of software or they can't build their product out. But most of the time, if you look at why most of these businesses fail, there's two main reasons. First is not achieving product market fit, and that's more on the software side. And the second is simply scale, that they can't achieve the scale that they need to be profitable. Looking at the first one, though, I think what we really need to dissect is why can't they get product market fit? And most of the time, in the startups I've seen, it's empathy. They built what they thought was the right product, not what their customers thought was the right product. They weren't being thoughtful in it,
Yep.
and it causes a failure in in the startup. And that's just one sector. And yeah, we are seeing growth, but I believe we can see way more growth. Think of the $3 trillion statistic you gave me earlier for waste in software. We throw away $3 trillion, right? And but think about the 30, $20 trillion in opportunities that we've lost, right? And that, I mean, yeah, we're doing great, but could we do even better? Absolutely, right? And it's not just the $3 trillion, it's not just the money, it's the headaches, it's the human pain caused by failure that we've experienced. We could have a more productive and happy society if we cared more, if we were more thoughtful with our software.
That's super interesting. I mean, I always thought about, Yeah, I mean, I guess like VCs are looking at probability, right? But I mean, you're saying why couldn't the batting average be even be better? You know,
Yeah,
why is it 1 out of 10? That's ridiculous.
it's
Yeah.
so bad, right? And it's it shouldn't be a betting game, right? Like that's for Vegas, and Vegas is a fun place to be. But startups shouldn't be Vegas. It should be methodical. It should say, listen, we know how to create a business. This is how you do it, and go about it in a data-driven, thoughtful way. You could change the game. I mean, you really could. I think the best VCs in the world understand this, and they guide their investees, their companies, into greatness. You know, A16Z gets uncharacteristically high returns, and you have to ask yourself, why is that? What do they have that the other VCs don't? And they have really smart people over there. But what else do they have? And I think it's, they're kind of doing the same thing I'm saying. They're being very thoughtful in how they guide their portfolio, and they get a lot of big wins. I mean, Coinbase is one of their investments, and they're probably going to be the next Google at this rate.
So, you know, both of us agree that the industry definitely could use more empathy in how they build software. But what about just building high quality code? Do you see like there's a shortage of really good developers out there that can actually build great software?
High quality code is hard. And when you add environmental factors, right? I'm not going to say there are so many bad engineers out there. I believe a lot of them care about their jobs and their careers and the work that they put out. Is there a talent shortage? Absolutely. Software has become more complex than ever, right? You have cloud, you need to be predictive. You need to have AI in your platform, your machine learning, natural language processing. You need to uh, run a distributed system. You need to have so much complexity in your code, right? The single page applications with React and Angular require you to know JavaScript or TypeScript. Now you need a backend RESTful API. So you need to know how RESTful works. You need to know how a backend framework works, Rails, Express, Node.js. And then you also have to know how databases work so you can scale and tune them so they hit the performance your customers require. And then if you add on top of all that complexity, if you get to a reasonable scale, you need to know how caching works. You need to know how uh, how eventual consistency works. All these subsystems, and God forbid you throw search into your application, I have even another system. And so the amount of people that can really understand all of that complexity and manage it and help people understand it, and not overcomplicate things, because it's very easy when you're in a complex environment to just hide complexity with more complexity. But to be able to really take all of that and simplify it and really understand it, I mean, that takes a rare talent, right? And that's hard. And no one should trivialize that. It's not because some people can't. I just believe the vast majority of people couldn't do that.
I mean, is that one of the major reasons you started Skipless? I mean, I always thought about, you know, like there's a lot of software consultants and a lot of software services out there. And, you know, building thoughtful software is something that's really unique and interesting.
So I started Skip List on a very simple principle that we were going to get the best minds in the world, and we were going to get them in a network. And we are going to take that network and help build amazing software for people. And that may manifest itself as, our company, which is helping people build the software and understand their complex problems and making them simple, all the way to just making introductions for people to people that are experts and could help them in other ways. And really, when we look at Skip List, it's an answer to that problem of there are only so many talented people in the world that can really do this level of complexity and manage it and help you out. And we want to make sure that we're the company that can make sure you get the people you need to get the job done. That's why Skiplets exists. That's how we're going to be thoughtful about it. We basically, I saw in the market a lack of empathy, as I mentioned earlier, a lack of caring about the work you do, a lack of transparency, and to be really frank, just a complete amount of bullshit, legal documents, CYA things. You have three people you get to talk to. You have account manager, you have a sales rep, you have a senior territory manager for some reason. And it all prevents you from getting the one thing you want, which is simple working software that your customers love.
So let's say you're a CIO or a CTO listening to this and you go, okay, I do want to build more thoughtful software, but I have all these crazy aggressive schedules. And does it mean that, building thoughtful software is going to delay everything now?
Being thoughtful isn't necessarily being slower. It can be. Sometimes we jump into a project that isn't fully understood, and we understand that. So we take a step back and help you do that too. But sometimes it's also understanding that to move fast, you have to move well. And so, yeah, it's a bit more methodical, it's a bit more in depth, but that's not necessarily slower. As we begin to understand the problem more, we start accelerating our own development. And because we're moving well as we do it, we're building the software the right way. Yeah, maybe the first couple of weeks, I didn't ship a microservice, but by the end of the project, we shipped just as much. But now it's something you can use and it actually solved your problem and you actually get value out of it versus the other approach, which is come in day one, guns blazing, kick down the door and ship something, but maybe you don't use it. I see so many consultant companies do that. They built an MVP or a POC, and they're super lean or whatever, and then they throw the POC away, and you spent 4 weeks, building something that was just throwaway. And we say, well, why not take 2 of those 4 weeks you're going to throw away anyways and actually learn about the problem? At the end of the second 2 weeks, yeah, we built a smaller POC, but it's one we can keep and continue building on. And so we've accelerated the project well beyond where it would have been in the typical consulting world of just build the POC and who cares if we throw it away. We need to show progress, 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 progress. Progress can be shown in multiple ways. Sometimes it's just understanding the problem, and that's key. That's key to understand that there's more than one way to solve a problem. Software isn't always the right way to solve a problem.
Have you found it challenging when you talk to clients and customers about building thoughtful software and maybe like an education lesson, or how do people resonate with this idea?
Everyone resonates. Most of the people I talk to, the CIOs, the CTOs, the VP of engineering in the world, they have felt this pain. They felt this pain their entire career of people just coming in and trying to go through the motions. And so
Just
when I
throwing a
tell them,
bunch
like,
of stuff.
yeah, they're like I said, the word bullshit comes up frequently at Skipless because that's what it is. It's just it's like a light show, and sure, it's great, but there's nothing there afterwards, right? And we don't want to just put on a show. We don't want to entertain you. We want to get the job done and get it done in the right way. And when people know that, when they understand that, and because you understand their pain and empathy, you build a lot of trust and they trust you to take care of them. And that trust needs to be nurtured, one, and two, should never be taken lightly. Right. And so we really try to build that trust, the ability to be partners with our clients, and they understand that. And so when I'm telling them about thoughtful software, it just resonates with them as a new way of thinking about it. It doesn't have to be the old way, and that we can get just as much work done or more. But let's not do it in a hasty manner. Let's be, like you said, methodical, data driven, right? Let's not just do things because we feel like it's the right choice. Let's make sure it's the right choice.
So if you haven't noticed yet, we really like the word thoughtful, thoughtful security, thoughtful privacy. It's something that definitely is important to us. For the industry in general, can we teach people to be more thoughtful and build more thoughtful software?
Absolutely. I believe that privacy is a good example of this. When people really understand the cost of their choices, when they really understand the depth of what this means if you don't have, for example, privacy, almost always people say, you know what, let's not do that. Let's protect it. Now, if it's your business model to invade people's privacy, it's a little harder to make a thoughtful choice, right? But you still have made a choice. You understood the cost of it and you understand the externalities of it, or maybe you don't in some cases. I think that that's the case with some companies. I believe most people are inherently good. They don't want to make evil in the world. They don't want to rob you of your privacy any more than they want you to rob them of theirs. And so what you have to do is make sure you're communicating from a level of high trust and high visibility and high transparency and saying, listen, this is the cost if you choose not to do privacy. This is the cost of not having security in your application. And make sure the trade-offs are known, right? Sometimes people say, well, okay, I think you're wrong about this. You made an assumption, and we can have a real conversation about it. And that conversation is where the magic happens. But I think a lot of people are moved so hastily, they don't even think about these things. They don't think about security. What happens if we get a data breach? And that causes problems. I mean, you can see it from everywhere. How many data breaches are there? I think that last year there were like 72 data breaches. This year they're estimating it gone up 30%, which is over 100 almost. I mean, that's a lot of data breaches. It's a
Or
lot
the
of
ones
people
we
that
know about, right?
the ones we know about exactly. And it's probably well over 100 already last year. It's probably going to be well over 200 this year. And it's going to keep getting worse as we get less thoughtful and we rush more to put band-aids on problems.
Well, I mean, I think it's really interesting when you talk about like values and thoughtfulness and software because I don't do you see any other examples of companies or people who you've talked to that kind of have the same mentality and are actually building thoughtful software?
I see a lot of individuals, freelancers that have values. In my experience, I've worked with over the past 3 years, but people that really have a lot of value is and stick to their principles. And there's companies like Bridgewater Capital and other spaces that have obviously Ray Dalio wrote a book called Principles, and there
Great
there are
book, by the way. Great book.
it's an amazing book if the person
How, lo-
listening
how,
doesn't
how
know
long
it.
did it take you to read that thing?
Oh, I went through like 3 times because it was so
Oh
good.
my God. There's like a million pages, dude.
It was, but it was addictive reading it. Like I read it in probably 3 days because I didn't put it down. My wife thought I was insane. She's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "No, this is so good. You have to read it." And she just shook her head and walked out of the room. But the second time I was highlighting, like I still go back. I have index cards and like the pages that like really blew my mind. A credible book,
I
and it
think
just shows you.
the only time I felt like that in my life was when I first found out about Game of Thrones, and it was like 4 seasons in, and I went on a binge, and I watched it in like a week. I
Oh,
hadn't seen my family for a week.
Billions was that for me. Man in the High Castle too. I'm so glad that's back this fall. Not advertising for Amazon, but if you haven't seen the show, watch Man in the High Castle. Such a good show. High
Okay,
product.
I'm putting
It's
that on my list.
um, but you look at Ray Dalio's company, Bridgewater Capital, and they have principles, and they're really successful because of it. And they're able to say this is the right choice. But in software, I don't see any consulting companies. Right? Go find your favorite consulting company. Go find the consulting company you're using right now, and go look at their website. Where are their values? Are they published on their website? Are they anywhere? And where do they talk about anything more than their team or what they can do, the advantage they provide? Like, they come off as like, we don't care about your problem, and you'd be lucky to have our team because our team's awesome, and you're not quite as awesome. Whereas you should talk about your principles and make sure your principles align. Ray Dalio talks about that, but I think it truly, truly, truly matters because if your principles don't align with each other, one person doesn't care about privacy and you do, it's going to be really hard to work together, and you're going to compromise a lot, and you're going to, you know, go against everything you're doing. You're not going to do a great job because you're not going to feel good about the job you're doing at the end of the day.
So executives actually do have a tough job. There's just so much going on with AI, machine learning, sensors, biotechnology, contractors, full-time developers. It's pretty hectic. So how does somebody in their position navigate this space now?
I think you do it a couple ways. You get high trust partners in place that aren't lying to you and aren't just trying to upsell you. Those helped a guy out the other day. Is a really old friend of mine who works at a t-shirt company, and they paid someone to basically build Slack for them, and it didn't work. They didn't even get halfway through the project. They gave me a call because the guy really trusts my opinion. He came in and was like, "How much would it take to finish this?" I'm like, "Well, probably 300,000." They like eyes bulged. I'm like, "We don't have to finish this because we're just going to install Slack." And I showed them Slack and I did a demo of it. And they're like, "I'm like, how much is that going to cost?" I'm like, "That's like $5 a month per user." And it blew their mind. And then we ended up doing a giant CRM migration for them, to a custom CRM because t-shirt companies are weird. And they didn't quite fit the model of Salesforce or any of those guys for what they needed. But the amazing part about this was the trust, and I rewarded that trust. But not could I made $300,000? Absolutely. But instead of trying to make the $300,000, I'd rather give them slack and work on real problems that haven't been solved yet, like their CRM, to allow them to have a competitive advantage. And their revenues are up this quarter because of their CRM. They're better tracking. They're actually data driven and not just making new product lines, make new product lines. They're actually making purposeful product lines using the data that they got from their CRM. And that's the kind of progress I can feel proud about. The team that worked on it can feel proud about. And ultimately, the customer loves because they actually got something that was valuable. Also, they call me every now and again and thank me for Slack because that's also helping quite a bit.
You should be like a Slack sales guy, man.
Oh, absolutely. I'm so good at it. Everyone that doesn't have Slack, I try to sell it to them. I don't know what's about the product, but I was one of the first users well, I do know what was about the product. And this is like a moments thing, right? A magical moment. I'd hit chat for the longest time at the company I was a chief architect at, and it sucked. Sorry, Atlassian, I know you rewrote it, but it sucked. And they I wouldn't get messages on my phone, so we'd have like downtime, and their architect's not there to lead because at lunch I would have ran, sprinted back to the office to be there for them. I'm not getting messages on my phone, and I installed Slack. I'm like, everyone, if you need me, message me on Slack, and I got them on my phone. And that was like the magical moment. Like, this actually just works. And so now whenever someone's like, oh man, I wish we had real time communication, like I got the perfect product for you. If they have an affiliate program, I should totally do it. I could probably retire next year with all the business I got them. But that's the magic of building the right product and being thoughtful with it. They're the perfect example. Slack's the perfect example of thoughtful software.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. So I have mixed feelings about Slack, actually. Actually, it's a great user experience. It's a phenomenal piece of software. I love the integrations, but they created so now I used to have one inbox, my email. Now I have hundreds, and in two different places. So one is my email. Now I have hundreds in another place, and I had this red thing that's saying, hey, I haven't read this. And then you have to scroll up and find the message that's relevant to you. To me, it seems like it's just insane. I don't know.
Oh,
It's getting crazier now. I don't know if it's that useful.
it is, I believe. And I think that one of the problems with Slack, once again, though, it's thoughtful software, but the way it's rolled out isn't very thoughtful because people don't get training. There's a do not disturb feature on Slack, and it'll actually do a roll up of all the messages you missed while you had do not disturb on. And I turn that on for hours at a time because as a developer, when I'm doing a project, I need downtime, I need to focus, I need to do deep work. And the do not disturb functionality on it's amazing, but no one knows about it. And so it feels like a second inbox. And the other thing you can do too is get emailed the roll up of your Slack messages that you missed. And I do that too. So occasionally I won't even check some of my Slacks and I'll just let the email come in. And, if I know there's nothing urgent in that channel, I'll just wait, 4 or 5 hours, get the messages. And it's amazing because then I only have one inbox. And then I know my urgent ones, my clients, my skip list,
So
company one.
you're basically saying I'm just a dumbass and I don't know how to use it.
I didn't say that. I just said you weren't properly trained on Slack.
That's a nice way of saying it. I'm going to call Slack and set up an affiliate partnership program for you. And I'm going to turn on Do Not Disturb right now.
All right, Andrew, that was an awesome first episode. What can people expect moving forward from the Thoughtful Software podcast?
Yeah, as I mentioned, mission of Skipless is to build this community, this network of people that really care about building great software, and then building it. And that's what we're going to do here. We're going to talk about how we would go about it. We're going to put so much content into each podcast about different areas of thoughtful software architecture, privacy, as you mentioned, security. We're going to bring on experts to talk with us about it, and the experts will resonate with our own values and our principles of thoughtful software and principled software. And it's going to be really amazing. You're going to see a lot of great viewpoints and a lot of great insights into how even if you're not using Skipless to build your software, how you can guide your teams to be more thoughtful in how they go about their jobs.
Thanks for listening to our first episode. You can always find us at skiplist.com. See you next time.